Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di.
And I'm Daughter.
And this is episode 5 of the Volume by Volume podcast. Today we will be sharing our thoughts on volumes 9 and 10 of Assassination Classroom by Yusei Matsui. This one is published by Viz and rated older teen. Daughter and I are currently reading this as part of the Monochrome Manga Club series reads. The Monochrome Manga Club is an in-real-life manga club that we host at a local Barnes & Noble where we read 2 first-in-a-series selections, and we're currently doing 2 full series reads. There will be spoilers, so if you haven't read these volumes, I definitely would suggest that you not listen to this recording until you have. Daughter and I are reading this on the Shonen Jump app, so we don't have physical copies to reference, but we're going to do the best that we can, as we have this whole time. We do want to again mention up front that Daughter and I do have previous experience with this series. Daughter has read through the entire series one time before. We have both watched a majority of the anime, and I have read the first volume of this series before as well. So we'll try not to spoil stuff that has not happened yet, but just so that you know, we do have prior experience with the series. Our experience is several years ago, though. It's got to be 10 years or something like that ago. So anything that has remained with us is very vague. So before we continue, we do want to tell you that if you would like to join us on this series read, you can definitely do so and share your thoughts with us on these volumes down in the comments below, or you can join our Discord, which is linked in the description box below, where the rest of the Monochrome Manga Club members are, and we can discuss your thoughts on either these volumes or any of the other volumes we are reading. We are currently reading Delicious in Dungeon as well, and we always have 2 first-in-a-series selections every month. So with that being said, I think we're ready to share our thoughts with you on these 2 volumes, volumes 9 and 10. I do think this is going to be a faster episode, considering not much really happened in these volumes.
There's maybe 2 important situations in here, but for me it was a boring experience.
Boring? I wouldn't say it was boring. I feel like we're kind of been spoiled up until this point in the series, because so much has happened in regards to the students' growth, whether it be in their studies or in their assassination techniques. A lot of things have been happening up until this point, and we get these glimpses of situations they're in over an entire volume, or it carries over through volumes, and we don't really get that in these 2 volumes. I feel like the things that were being presented in these 2 volumes didn't really have a lot to do with character growth. I mean, we did get introduced to Kayano and her expertise in baking. So we got that. We got a situation with Takabayashi and him migrating to the upper campus. And then we had another face-off against Itana. So there were things in there in these 2 volumes, but I don't feel like they were really large things. I feel like the sections of those situations was taken care of pretty quickly, and not one of those really super suspenseful, what's going to happen with this. Whereas in the previous volumes, we had that big school trip with the quote-unquote terrorist dudes, and we've had other situations where the kids were learning techniques, or they're studying for the big exam, or their first encounter with Ituna and his guardian. I feel like those all took up a lot more time than the things that we were given in these 2 volumes. And I think I feel that way because we were served a lot of fluff in these volumes. Like things that really didn't have to do with their assassination attempts, their growth as people. I mean, we had that like matchmaking game with Koro Sensei facilitating that, which is kind of like not really relevant to what's going on. I mean, I get that that's a ploy to like get Irina and Karasuma together, but I personally don't need that to happen. Do you know what I mean? That's not a big focus for me with this series. I'm much more interested in what's going on with the students and how they're growing in their abilities and, you know, their attempts, rather than all of this like fluff that I really don't need.
You and me both.
Yeah, I know daughter doesn't read romance like at all. I will read romance manga. I'm not really one to read romance novels, though I am trying to explore that because I've kind of like avoided it, not really trying to read romance novels, but I do enjoy a good romance manga. Like I'll read shoujo manga. I do read more mature titles as well, but I read them because that's the main focus of that series. You know, I know what I'm getting into when I get into a series that's like that. I'm going to expect that there will be a romance, that we're going to follow characters navigating a relationship. With this series, I don't need that. Like for me, this series is all about the kids. It's about the kids learning, growing, trying to take out Koro Sensei. I don't need them to get together with each other. Like I know that is like a normal thing, especially for, you know, middle grade kids to be exploring their feelings. But I don't know. I just felt like it was really weird. The pairings that they made throughout that section as well. Like I get Irina and Karasuma, but again, that is not something that I really need out of this story. For me, you could have taken out that entire section and I would have still been happy with what we were presented for the rest of the 2 volumes. I'm pretty sure daughter agrees with me because like I said, she doesn't read any romance and she's not somebody who enjoys romance stories, but I'll let her weigh in since I seem to be taking up most of the talking time in this episode so far.
This is probably because I don't have too much I need to say about it. A lot of my feelings are kind of copy-paste to yours, so I feel like there wasn't any need to interject. Now, as you were talking about it, I was trying to think about, you know, maybe reasons why the mangaka decided to put in these, like, nonsensical chapters. And I'm just wondering if it was kind of like, you know, exploring the summer vibes to have that little downtime before, you know, things rack up again for the second trimester.
Before getting really serious, so that's part of like playtime.
Yeah, kind of like maybe like a calm before the storm situation. Also to remind the readers that they have that little bit of childish innocence and that they should be exploring those chaotic times while they can before things get serious.
But at the same time, I feel like we weren't, like, given any, like, indication that, you know, some of the kids might have had feelings for other of the kids in the class. Like, that's not something that was even dropped that I remember. I mean, maybe it was, and I just wasn't aware. But I don't recall the pairings that we were given to have any kind of feelings towards each other besides platonic until we got that scene. So it was kind of really a strange thing to be dropping in there. I mean, if that was the whole idea of, just being kids, having some playtime before things started to get serious again. I mean, they could have done a whole bunch of other types of things.
Yes, but you also have to factor in Koto Sensei's character.
I know, but he has that. I know that is exactly why he decided to do that, but at the same time, for me as a reader, it was completely unneeded. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. Of course.
Like, I don't feel like any of that had anything to do with the main focus of this story.
Which is exactly why I didn't spend too much time reading these volumes.
I do also feel like there would have been another better way to showcase the fact that Irina was getting serious about Karasuma. So to have that like matchmaker game or whatever they called it as like the ploy to get them together, that was just ridiculous to me. So yes, pretty unhappy with that section of the story. I did enjoy, what's his name? Was it Takabayashi? When he went up to the main campus, because we get to learn more about him, right? We know now a little bit of what his family life is like, the struggles that he's been having trying to prove himself to his family, him trying to think about how to rise above and have his family accept him, and his struggles. I always enjoy learning about our students in this class. I also, though, enjoyed how he publicly said that you guys are not for me. I'm going back to 3E.
That might have been the only redeeming part of his character to me, because I felt like the way that they treated his character was kind of like a last-minute ditch to give him some sort of depth. I didn't like the way that it was portrayed. Like, I liked the backstory, his own character struggles, but the way that they, like, sort of antagonized him to 3E and said, he just thought that 3E was an abusive environment and he didn't like it and blah, blah, blah. He fits in better to the main campus. That whole, like, few-page thing was,
Don't you think he was disillusioned, though? I feel like part of him saying that, he doesn't like 3E and stuff like that was him psyching himself up to fit in with the main campus students. Because I think that if he had gone to the main campus trying to stick up for his classmates in 3E and the things that were going on there, that would have made life difficult for him if he was really trying to be part of their community. So I kind of feel like he was doing that to make himself more acceptable to the students that he wanted to try to be with this new move. And I can totally understand why he would want to make the move to the main campus, considering what we've learned about how his family views him.
Yeah. The whole pressure to live up to expectations situation is there. I understand that.
It's a very Asian sentiment.
Which makes his character seem flat to me. He's kind of like an oversaturated, overused type of... It was kind of like we don't have a backstory for him. We'll give him this.
So they just made him a regular Asian dude. Like, if you don't know, because you can't see us, we are Asian. And so a lot of that, pressure from family and how Asian families kind of raise their kids with expectations and things it's very familiar. Definitely something I felt from especially my father growing up. I tried not to impose that upon the daughter here. In fact, I tried to spare her as much as possible from my own father in regards to that, because it affected me so much, how nothing was ever, good enough. And so I definitely could understand where this character was coming from and how he felt, because I was also told that I would never make anything of myself and that I was never good enough, and why couldn't I be more like my siblings. So I definitely could relate to this character. And I know my daughter has seen and heard some of that from my own father, not in regards to herself, but in regards to me. And so, yeah, it's definitely something we're very familiar with. And I think at the same time, it made it kind of a little bit of a painful kind of thing to read through. Just watching him try to not be himself, to kind of conform so that he'd be more acceptable to his family. But like I said, I really enjoyed the slap to the face to the main campus that he ended up giving them at the end. Because even they were like, oh, you're part of us now, so you need to turn on 3E. And he rose above and realized that it wasn't all sunshine and butterflies. The grass was not greener on the other side. And so I'm glad that he made the decision to go back to 3E. And I'm glad to have gotten to know him better. Like I said, that's definitely one of the things that I really enjoy about the series, is the fact that we are learning about each of the classmates and their individual endeavors, the things that they like, how they're growing. Because each character grows differently, like regular people. And so I really enjoyed that. So along those lines, I also enjoyed our little visit with Kaino, especially because it had to do with baking a dessert. I really enjoyed how much enjoyment she had thinking up how to make this huge pudding, only to be thwarted by Koro Sensei. But I mean, that was expected. I mean, we're not yet halfway through the series, so obviously there's no way her endeavor would have worked. But watching her go through the steps on how to stabilize the pudding to make sure that it would be firm enough to stand on its own, and all of the little things that she thought about in order to create this huge dessert, I enjoyed that.
It made the assassination attempt unique, which is something that you would probably worry about considering the number of students and the number of attempts that they would have to go throughout the year to try to, sweep Koro Sensei off of its tentacles.
Tentacles? True. But you're right, it is a unique attempt because it's not an outright attack. It was a disguised attempt, which I kind of feel like we haven't seen yet. I'm trying to think back. I feel like the attempts that really stick out at me are very open and straightforward and, out in the open where he knows that it's coming. So it was an interesting turn to see an indirect type of attempt. And she does it because of something that he mentioned about how he would have loved to eat a giant pudding.
So it shows that more than just academics, that he's imparting a little bit of himself into his students, and his students are willing to take that information in, help them on their assassination attempts unknowingly, but also just giving them a side of Koro Sensei that they wouldn't expect to see outside of the classroom.
You know, and I do also appreciate that every time their attempt fails, he tells them why. He tells them why it fails so they can work on it.
But also, they wouldn't expect him to, actually eat dirt to take out the bomb.
No, I didn't expect him to eat dirt to take out the bomb either. But, if you think about it, if that thing did explode, do you know what kind of a mess would have been left? That would have been horrendous to clean up. So it's kind of a good thing that it didn't succeed. Not only that, everybody got to eat some of the pudding, which is not a bad deal, in my opinion.
Well, Kayano also thought the same. Her emotional distress when she finally realized.
Yeah, she started to have
second thoughts
at the last minute. No, I don't want to blow up my pudding. But yeah, that was fun. So then I guess that brings us to the last kind of major thing that happened, which was Ituna's reattempt on Koro Sensei. And that kind of turned things in a different direction for that character.
Well, being thrown out by his guardian is one thing. And it was kind of like a journey to refine himself, I guess you could say. Rediscover his identity, I guess, because of the mental strain that was put onto him to have such power.
Well, and then he was kind of being brainwashed too, right?
So it was also kind of like a little plot to show them that, he's also just a kid. It's just society kind of, wronged him the way that the major campus has wronged 3E. And it showed him that he did have a place to stay. He had a place to belong. And
people to help him, because there were definitely some ramifications of the things that were done to him to give him the similar things that Koro Sensei has.
It showed everyone, that the power to have something like that has a price, and they didn't want that punishment to go down onto Ituna just because he was, I guess, quote unquote, given the power. So he was, I don't know, just them accepting him as a student already because he was, part of the roster for so many months, and actually, showing up to provide said support was probably one of the best things that could have happened to him. Just because of the way that he has been dispatched by his guardian to, you have one job.
Well, used and abused too.
Exactly.
But, he also has now found people that can help him that I don't think he's had, especially with the journey that he's been on. So we should see some definite character growth from him in the next few volumes, I would think.
Now that his rage, I guess, has been suppressed, and Terasuka and the gang are there to kind of put him in his place, I guess we'll be able to see more of the real Itana as we did in the last chapter of volume 10, which should be a great asset to the classroom as a whole. Looking forward to seeing how his contributions will affect their assassination attempts as it has in this one chapter alone.
Well, not only that, to see how Koro Sensei's teachings help him grow also, as it has for the rest of the students that we've seen so far. So I think that's pretty much everything that we needed to touch on. I mean, the whole thing that brought us to Itana was pretty sketchy too. Like I didn't really enjoy all of that lead up to the combat between Itana and Koro Sensei. In fact, I was kind of surprised that so many people did not immediately think, hey, Koro Sensei would never do something so blatantly dumb. Like they know the types of things he likes. And so given the situation that was happening, you could definitely see how somebody could immediately think of Koro Sensei, but once you heard of more details of the case and the fact that everything Koro Sensei had was infiltrated by said undergarments, only 2 of the students really thought, hey, that's not something that Koro Sensei would do. Like, this has to be a setup. Which I thought was a little bit weird. I mean, obviously the 2 students that caught it were the 2 students that I thought would be the ones to, like, really think and be all like, yeah, he's being set up. But at the same time, I'm a little bit surprised that not more of the students came to that conclusion right away.
I think it's because only those 2 have taken a lot more into heart rather than the other students. Perhaps it's just that Koro Sensei's teachings and personality have struck a chord deep into themselves that, you know, they're kind of resonating with how Koro Sensei operates. And the other students are kind of like, we'll trust you as far as our hand can reach situation. They haven't been, you know, given that opportunity to be super close with Koro Sensei.
That's still sad for me, though. I mean, considering how much he's already done for a lot of them, you know?
Yeah, but I think that also helps distinguish who will rise higher than the others in their class.
True. I also think it was a good opportunity to throw in a little bit of comedy because, you know, things can't get too serious with this series yet. I mean, I personally think this is going to get pretty emotional for me. I mean, that's kind of why I stopped watching the anime years ago. But this series, as we've been reading it, never fails to have its little comedic moments to break up all of the serious stuff. So, while I didn't appreciate the particular storyline with that, it did bring us to the fight with Itana again and that whole section. So, you know, throw in some comedy where it can be in the story to not keep things so serious. And then, you know, still provide opportunities to show us that kids are kids and that they do enjoy things that kids enjoy and that, you know, they do have things that they are concerned about in their own family life. And it just I don't know. It keeps this series grounded, not too flamboyant, or flamboyant's not the word I'm looking for. Not too crazy or over the top. But yeah, is that pretty much all that you want to discuss?
That was pretty much everything. I think we went through more than I thought we were going to.
We definitely talked about more than we thought we were going to. From thinking back that, not too much happened in these volumes, we definitely had a lot of stuff to say on the few things that, you know, did happen in these volumes. And so, yeah, it's always surprising because I think last month I also said, there's not too much to talk about. And then we went for a regular size episode. I said it again in this episode. Oh, there's not too much to talk about. It should be zippy. And here we are with another full size episode. So I guess in thinking back, there's always, more stuff to talk about with this series than we thought on initial recollection. So it's always nice to hash it out again with my daughter. And so we hope you enjoyed hearing our thoughts on this series. We will be back again in episode 6 for volumes 11 and 12. So we're hitting that halfway point in this month's volumes, and so that will be exciting. If you're interested in reading any of the other Monochrome Manga Club selections, please feel free to join us. I'll link the First Impressions video down in the description box below, as well as the link to our Discord, so you can read the volumes and discuss with us if you would like to. And so that will pretty much do it for us today. So we will be back either at the end of this month or early in July for episode 6. And until then, we hope that you will continue to enjoy reading Assassination Classroom with us, volume by volume. Bye!